Yo, what's up everybody and welcome back. I'm Dakota. It's Friday night in Vegas and that means we're going to be playing some 1-2 PLO at the Wynn. Let's waste no time and hopping right into these hands, and we immediately sit down with our fresh $500 stack in the big blind and we look down at aces. Rainbow aces, but no complaints. Aces on the first hand. If that's not a sign that this is going to be a good session, then I don't know what is. There's a limp and then another limp on the button, and we go ahead and make it 25 from the big blind. Both players call, $75 in the pot, and the flop is queen six deuce, 2 diamonds. No need for us to build a big pot out of position with just a pair and no draw, so we check and the low jack bets 40. I go ahead and put in the call here for 40 because in the moment I told myself if we turn an ace we have the nuts, but I misread my hand or I misremembered it. I thought we had the ace of diamonds. So that's not necessarily true because on a turn ace of diamonds, we kind of get in a sticky spot where we turn top set, but there's also a flush on board. If I would have remembered that, I wouldn't have called, but nonetheless, we call. Turn is a jack of spades. I go ahead and check again, and then this player, recreational woman, bets 100, and it's just never a bluff, so we fold. If that's not a bad sign on the session, then I don't know what is. Right in the hand number 2, and this will be a fun one. Same lady from the last one, limps for $5. The button makes it 20. The small blind calls, and we're in the big blind with the 10, 10, 8, 9 with the 10, 8 suited of diamonds. Definitely putting in a call here. I want to see a flop with this connected hand. 4 players to a flop with $80 in the middle, and it's a beauty. The 7, 6, 3 rainbow. So we flop that wrap, little backdoor flush draw action. Small blind checks. I check because I'm an idiot, and then the low jack woman from the last hand goes ahead and pots it for $80. The other 2 players get out of the way, and we got no decision here. We're trying to get this money in. We go ahead and repot it. She goes all in, and she asks me to run it twice. Now, if you've watched the channel so far, you know I run it once, and the chat pros are going to roast me in the comments, and that's fine. Y'all come a-flocking. But this woman only plays PLO in between her baccarat or blackjack sessions. I've played with her several times. She's a super nice lady. She's good for the game. She's always chatty and fun. And if she wants to run it twice, then damn it, I'm running it twice. I'm not trying to stack her and get her out of the game. So you can hate me in the comments, but I reserve the right to run it twice when I want to. It's not all gamble. It's not all degen. You have to have some emotion. So we decide to run it twice. The first board immediately rips off a queen and then a 3. She says, I have a boat. And we run it again. The turn is a gin, 8. We have the nut straight. We fade the river and we chop it up. Friendly pot. She's happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. Go ahead. Roast me in the comments how I say I only run it once. I respect it. I went back on my word. I deserve it. We play our first all-in pot of the night and we chop. All right, right in the hand number 3. Middle position, low jack player makes it 10. The cutoff calls and we look down at the dream. Double suited aces. Make it 45 to go, the maximum. The small blind player is what we call a thinking player, but you can tell he's also new to PLO. So while he's thinking, he also most of the time doesn't know what he's thinking, if that makes any sense. He goes ahead and pots it, and this means only one thing, that he has aces. The beautiful thing about this is that I have the better aces, almost undoubtedly. So when the other 2 players fold, we got no decision. We're going to pot it up. He puts it all in. I don't know this guy, so it's one time for him. Sorry, buddy. No chops this time. The dealer rips off the king 10 3 board, and he says, I have a flush draw, which is a terrible thing to hear because now it looks like there won't be any chops. There's a pretty good chance that I will not be getting some of this pot. The turn's the 6 of diamonds, and the river is the 8 of clubs. Sure enough, he had aces. I didn't quite catch all of his hand, but I believe it was ace, ace, 6, 9 with the ace, 6 of hearts. So we're lucky to chop this one up in this given situation, but I would definitely run my aces versus him 100 times over again. 2 all-in hands, 2 chops, no blood spilled. We still got about $600 in stack at this moment. Tell me if I got angled here. All right, for our next hand, we pull the queen, jack, 8, 10 with the 10, 8 of hearts from the cutoff. Folds to the low jack player who limps for 5. We go ahead and make it 20. This small blind lady and this lady on my right calls. Going 3 ways to a pot with $60 in the middle, and it is jack, 9, 7, rainbow. Pay close attention to what happens after this. I really want to hear the comments section's opinion on what you would have done in this hand, because this is something I have not yet seen, something I have not yet encountered in quite a few years of poker, hundreds of thousands of hands. So, and I honestly didn't know how to react. So anyway, both players check, and we want to start building this pot. We go ahead and bet 50. The lady on my right is the only caller, and she quickly puts in the 50 bones. Turn is the 5 of hearts. We still have the nuts, and now the lady leads for $100. I'm loving the situation because this is just saying that she has a lower straight, maybe like the 6-8, or maybe 2 pair or set, something that she likes enough to donk into me for $100. We just are always getting the stack here, in my opinion. These players, especially recreational players, drinking and having fun, it's just not a bluff, right? So we go ahead and pot it up. Then the dealer is chatting up with another player. I don't say the words pot, I just throw enough money out there that is full pot. The lady on my right obviously reaches for chips, and then she says, how much is it? And he says 165, which is awfully wrong. To which I say, no. And then she throws in a couple hundred chips, which is obviously a call. I say, no. She bet 100. I'm potting. He then says, oh, well then the pot is 465. To which the woman then grabs her 100 chips back. The woman thinks about it for a second and then pulls her money back and just says, whatever, I'll just fold, and then asks to see a river. There's a couple schools of thought here, obviously. We're here to make money. I want all her money to go in when I have the nuts, but at the same time, I think that she didn't have a full concept of what was happening. The dealer also did announce the money wrong. Yeah, I would want to hear everybody else's opinion. I obviously tried to be the consummate professional, one could say. Don't say anything. Let this recreational nice lady on my right take her money back and us move along without causing a scene. But I know there's some savages in the comment section that would have freaked out here. So tell me what you would have done. We end up scooping a decent little pot. Can't dwell on it. We move on to the next hand. In this hand, same kid that had the aces a couple hands ago opens for 15, first to act. We get a call from the button player, the small blind player, lady on my right calls, and we peel the beautiful King 10-7 double suited. A monster. You know what we're doing. We're going to make it pot. 75 to go. The player on my left wastes about half a heartbeat before saying pot, and we already categorized him into a bucket earlier of this is always aces, and this situation is definitely no different. The other two players fold, and it's just a really sucky situation where we know we're behind. It's extremely borderline. I know that double suited kings against any random aces has about 40% equity, believe it or not. We're getting almost 40% equity in pot odds to call here. And so it boils down to a couple factors. First factor is that I know I'm going to run it once. I'm okay with stacking this guy and him not rebuying and going home. I'm also out of position, so calling and seeing a flop that's safe is not an option. And honestly, I'm not buying into the Wynn 1-2 PLO game with 100 big blinds to fold double suited kings. So all that factored in, we go with it. We pot it back up. He puts it all in. Obviously, we're up against aces, and we're going to have to get a little lucky here. And lucky, it looks like we're going to get on the Jack 6-8 2 spades flop. Doesn't get much better than that when you know you're a little behind. Flush draw, gutter. We're rooting for something. We're rooting for anything. Turns a 4 of diamonds, and the river is a 10 of clubs, giving us a pair. 2 pair good, but that's not how PLO works. He has aces, and he holds, and he wins. Good for him. I'm quickly making a PLO connoisseur on my left. So after this hand, we get moved to the main game. We go to load in a rebuy. I tried to load in 500. I accidentally grabbed too many blacks on my pocket. I throw them on the table. The second the dealer deals me into the bomb pot on the next game. So I have about 850 in stack to play this hand. I don't have my phone set up. I don't record it at all. And long story short, I get stacked in arguably the dumbest PLO bomb pot I've played in very long time. This guy, long story short, I will not bore you with the hand, absolutely just spazzes out. A guy that I play with pretty regularly has a 2% chance of winning one board and a 25% chance of winning the other. Somehow gets there on both. I did the math. That's a 0.005% chance of me getting scooped in this hand. He banks it. Good for him. And I can't even describe to you the level of tilt because I don't even have footage of it. That leads us into our next hand where I am the straddle but don't have any chips. I have cash in front of me. So you have to imagine there's a $10 straddle out there and we have Queen, Jack, 7-7. a young traveler to Vegas, limps in the middle position. She has a couple hundred behind. And everybody folds, believe it or not. Yes, we are still playing PLO. And I'm happy to raise a pot up out of position with a somewhat playable hand against a recreational player. So that's exactly what I do. We make it 35 to go. She calls and we're off to a flop. Flop is 10-4-8 with the 10-4 of diamonds. Feels like we have a whole lot, but we got a whole lot of nothing. We're all around it. We go ahead and check, and she bets 45. We're looking to steal it on later streets, so we call, and hey, we can always just bink the nut gutter, right? Turn is the jack of clubs, double flush draw board, and no need to change the strategy now. We check. She checks back, which is a good sign, and definitely gives us the green light on the 8 of diamonds river. It just changes so much. She was already afraid of a straight on the turn, so when the flush and boats come in, unless we're up against a set or 2 pair that wanted to check back the turn against 2 flush draw board, probably the correct play, but probably unlikely from this exact player. We just think that she probably has a baby flush at best, and we decided to bluff it here. We bet 115 and she snap folds, so good on us. Big pot inbound and kind of a big blunder inbound by me. Let's see if it costs me some money. So the hijack limps, cutoff limps, button limps, small blind limps, and we go ahead and make it 30 from the big blind with the queen 8-4-5 double suited. Definitely just a check back, but in game we potted up for some reason. I think it's because the woman on my right was pretty tilted and the players that limped were just super passive in this game. I don't know if I like that. Probably just a check. Anyway, that's what we do. We potted up. Hijack calls, cutoff calls, and small blind calls. 125 bones in the pot. We go to queen 6-4, 2 diamonds, and a spade. So we got the backdoor flush draw and top and bottom pair. Top and bottom is such a tricky hand to play. We're not deep enough to think too much about it. I think we had about 600 or so in stack to start this hand. We go ahead and bet $80, trying to thin the field and get value from flush draws and other things that are going to call, but not play super aggressively. Only one player calls the small blind, so now we get to be in position the whole rest of the hand, which is ideal. And the turn is somewhat gin. It is the 3 of spades. We are now open-ended, backdoor flush draw, top and bottom pair. She checks, and we bet pot, 285. She thinks about it for quite a while, and then calls, 285. Going to a river, which is the 3 of clubs. She checks again, and I think without thinking, I just stuck my stack in here. But this is the blunder in the hand. I don't think we ever get called by worse here. And if somehow she just had like kings here, king high flush draw of diamonds, I think that most players are just calling for like almost 200 here on this river, and we just lose. And I think in the moment I just was going with it. I don't love the river bet. Anyway, she thinks about it for quite a while, and then as I'm sitting there thinking, as she's tanking, I'm thinking, wow, this is a really bad jam. And then I'm thinking, well, now she's tanked so long, I kind of want her to call, because now I'm thinking she has something like ace queen or king queen, and she's thinking about heroing it off, which would be sick. But that is not what she does. She ends up folding, and we scoop a 1K pot even without her calling. Game is officially getting a little off the rails. Woman on my right is arguing with the guy on her right. She is battling and fighting for all the pots. The people at the other end of the table are drinking. It's a good game. I'm in the straddle for 10. There's a limp from the low jack. Small blind limps, big blind limps, who's the lady on my right. And we go ahead and pot it up to 55 with king jack 5-4 double and the good double, king jack high suits. Definitely a very playable hand, something we want to isolate, and we do. However, we isolate nobody as everybody calls. Like I said, game's getting good. So 220 in the pot, we go to a beauty of a flop. Jack 6 deuce, the jack of diamonds, 6 deuce of hearts. Front door flush draw, back door flush draw, gutter, pair. We're all over this thing. We got a lot of equity here. Small blind checks. I'm getting ready to bet until the big blind lady goes ahead and pots for 220. At this point, she only has about 300 or so behind. I'm ready to run this hand against anybody. That's exactly what we do. We pot it up, 880 to go. Other 2 players get out of the way pretty quickly, and she is all in. She's in the run at once mood as well. I don't even have to speak for her. And we go to a run out. Turn is the first thing I see is a diamond, and I'm thinking, yes. And then I notice it's the 3 of diamonds, so I don't need to hit anything. We're there with the nuts. River's the king of clubs for overkill. We river top 2 pair, and we show, and we're good. She never shows her hand. She does berate me for a little bit for putting it in like a whale, according to her. So she definitely had my hearts covered, I think. She mentioned something about a baby flush draw. Hey, I'll take all the berating as long as you're sliding me that free 600, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, we scooped this $1,300 pot, and we are trending in the right direction. We might actually save this session.
30.
We don't play a pot for a while, besides one where somebody raised to 35 or so, a couple callers. I flop the nut straight on a rainbow board, bet, and take it down. Pretty boring hand, but we do chip up like 150 or so right there. And then we somehow don't play a hand for like 30 minutes or so until this hand where there's a straddle on. 2 limps after that. The hijack makes it 55. The cutoff calls. I'm on the button with the queen jack 7-9 double suited. We happily call on the button with this. Under the gun, straddler calls, and the 2 limpers surprisingly get out of the way. So about 240 in the pot or so, go into a flop of queen 8-6 with 2 hearts. So not a whole lot. We flop a open ender with the 7-9. Everybody checks to me, and the weird thing about this hand is that there's 240 in the pot, and the biggest stack behind is like $300. So we kind of have to make a decision on like checking this back and accepting loss, or just going with it and running our equity, wanting to see all 5, hopefully against one player. That is ultimately what I end up doing. We go ahead and bet 200. The next player, they act the under gun straddler, goes all in for about 255, and the other 2 players get out of the way, which is definitely best case scenario for my hand. We run it once. Turn is the 3 of hearts, so we are officially dead, done with the hand. River is the king of clubs, and he will not turn his hand over, which is super weird. He's the all-in player. A lot got there. I don't have much of anything. He doesn't turn his hand over for so long. I just show a queen, and then he shakes his head in like a way that's like good, but I just have the weirdest feeling like I'm getting slow rolled by this guy. Finally, I just turn my whole hand over where I'm tired of waiting, and he says, "You're good. Queen jack good." Oh my gosh. I don't know how we win this pot, but we scoop a freaking $700 pot here with queen jack 1 pair. Hard to believe. Anyway, to say we're running good, understatement. This brings us to the last hand of the night, which is a bomb pot. It's 3:30 in the morning. I got to wrap it up and go. I already have some of my chips in the rack, and I say I'll do the bomb pot with y'all and then head out. Why? I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of them, but nonetheless, here we are. We get a pretty nothing hand of the king 9-8 deuce, and we go to 2 boards where one is 10-9-9 with a flush draw. So we flop trips in the flush draw. The other is 4-5 king, where we don't flop much of anything besides top pair. Yeah, hard to think of like really great runouts on either one of these boards. 160 in the pot, and for the first time ever, it checks all the way through, and we go to 2 turns. On the one with the 9 board, we have the queen of clubs, and then on the other board is the 10 of clubs. Player on my right bets 100 with about 160 behind. And I think with a 9 and a flush draw on the one board, we have just enough to call 100 against him. But honestly, a lot of times we're just throwing 100 away because somebody can pot behind. So this is honestly a fold here. Nonetheless, I just call in the moment, and 2 players call behind. So now it's like 560 in the pot. And on the trips board, we get the 7 of clubs. And on the other board, we get the ace of clubs. So we're sitting with a whole lot of really nothing at this point. As expected, player first to act goes all in for his remaining 165. And I'm in just such an uncomfortable spot because it's hard for me to be beat on both boards by this player. But that's a very wrong logic. I really pride myself on being pretty good at bomb pots. And this is a really, really bad example. I think I'm throwing money away all you want. I end up calling, which is throwing money away. It's atrocious. Thank God the 2 players behind me just fold, and it doesn't even matter because this guy happens to have us beat on both boards. He has ace, queen, jack 9. He has a flush on the other board, and he has better trips, or I'm sorry, he has a boat on the top board where I have trip 9s. And so we gift this guy a couple $100. Good for him. Yeah, I really wish I could take this one back. This is an embarrassing bomb pot, but I saw comments saying that I never include the bomb pots. Most of the time because I think there's not a lot of logic that goes into them, but this time there was some logic that went into it, and it was all terrible by me. So I figured I'd throw it in there. Can't say I don't throw the bomb pots in here anymore, and that wraps up our session. It was an absolute swingy session. It was a really fun session though. We do book a loss, but it was a session that We just played so many fun hands and all in pots that it didn't feel like a loss. Anyway, thanks for enjoying my PLO content. Please subscribe. We have a fun tourney run coming up in the next vlog, and then back to the PLO action after that. I'll see you in the outro. We lost, but the game was good, and I really just lost all the money in bomb pots, which is pretty unfortunate. Fucking bomb pots. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.